Hey everyone, it's me again, Guardian Mo's back online. So you remember that video I made yesterday, that stupid statement that Nigel Farage made when he was asked on the definition of what is a Welshman in Port Talbot in that press conference for Reform. I'll mention it again. He says that anyone who has settled into the Welsh community for a minimum of 5 years, pays their taxes, does their 9-to-5 job, contributes to the economy, regardless of their skin colour, regardless of their family or heritage or blood or DNA, can be classified as a Welshman. They are just as Welsh as someone who is born and bred in Wales, has family in Wales, and their heritage and ancestry is Welsh. So theoretically, according to that definition, Axel Blueberry Banana, according to Nigel Farage, is a Welshman. And you can apply that sentiment to the Englishman, the Cornishman, the Scotsman, the Irishman, the Ulsterman. It is completely ridiculous. It is utterly preposterous. Even I can admit that. Okay? Someone like me, Guardian Mose, can never be English. I can never be an Englishman until the day I die. Even if I married an English woman and I had children, they're not English. Well, they're half English, but they can't call themselves Englishmen. I never coulda, woulda, shoulda be English. All right? Let's just make that clear. Now, having said that, I wouldn't classify myself as an ethno-nationalist. I just don't like this idea, this sentiment that ethno-nationalists retain. I don't like the Homeland Party. I don't like their political ideology. I don't share their ideas and their beliefs on what constitutes England and what constitutes Britain. Because I'm just sick and tired of the people who revolve their whole entire political ideology, their way of viewing the world and their way of thinking solely around race, solely around someone's skin color. It just drives me mad, because there's this notion called the woke right or something. They're basically the same as the people on the left. What characterizes the left is that they focus solely on race or gender or whatever, something called identity politics. If you're black, we put you into this category. You're white, you're Asian, you're yellow, you're Indian, Bangladeshi. We split you all up into categories and we treat you as such. I just hate that. I just don't like identifying people based on their ethnicity, their gender, all of these identities. I just, just treat people like human beings. Every human being, every individual is unique in their own ways. Sure, they might have their ancestry, their heritage, their skin color, but they might be nurtured in a different way. I can only speak English, even though my ethnicity is technically Chinese. English is my first language, and I think that above all other immigrants, a person like me, Guardian Mose, is able to integrate and assimilate myself into British society far better than Abdul, Muhammad and Jamal, and I'm sure you can agree on that. So I just really don't like these kind of political parties like the Homeland Party. They think that everything has to be based on race, that the English society and its characterization is solely constituted by ethnicity. The English belongs to the English. Yeah, sure, I agree that in order for England to retain its English identity, or Britain to retain its British identity, at least 90% of the people have to be native Brits or native English. Scotland has to be native Scots. I agree with that 100%. Whether or not it's 92%, 93%, 95%, I don't know. I'm not in a position to make an affirmation as to what that exact percentage has to be. But, people like me, or people like Shoaib, people like Momus Nabji, they should be in the minority for good reason. But there's no reason why we can't, people like me and Momus, we can't settle in comfortably into the British society so long as we abide by British laws, so long as we're able to assimilate into British society, follow the ways of life, admire the culture. We love the United Kingdom and all of its glory and all of its virtues, and we're patriotic about this country. What's stopping us from settling and living here? Folks inside of the Homeland Party believe that If you are not ethnically English, if you are not ethnically Welsh or Scottish, you should be remigrated back to your native homeland, back to the country that you originate from. I'm just thinking, how were you able to even institutionalize that kind of political ideology and way of thinking? How will you even develop the proper policies to facilitate that kind of radical change without facing major backlash, not just from the communists, not just from the leftists, not just from the Islamists, but by ordinary British people themselves? Most British people aren't racist. I can personally attest to that. And it's true. Most people just, they don't really, they look at your ethnicity, they might think you're not really Anglo-Saxon, they just don't care. I'd say here in England, particularly, there's more class discrimination. People are classist. There's more classism here than there is racism. That is a fact. So I just don't know how you would institutionalize the remigration of people solely based on their ethnicity, on their skin color, because you'd have to take into account people who were, imagine if I was adopted, I was born and bred here, raised by English parents or whatever, and I'm ethnically Chinese or Cambodian or Thai or Malaysian or whatever, and all of a sudden the government, under a Homeland Party government, tells me that I have to be remigrated to China or Malaysia or the Philippines because I'm not ethnically English, even though I was born and bred here and was nurtured here, and I fully embrace the culture of this country. That's utterly preposterous. I just don't know how you would. There's plenty of people who've been adopted and they're not ethnically English or Scottish or Welsh or whatever. I just simply don't understand how you could facilitate that. So, you know, and it's not just people who have been, you know, people who might not have been born in the UK, but they were moved here when they were 8 years old or something, and they've basically been educated here for the larger majority of their life. How would you be able to institutionalize that kind of remigration? It's just the people who disrespect our culture, disrespect our laws. They spit on the streets. They set up dodgy Turkish barbers and takeaway stores. Those are the people that need to be deported. Abdul Mohammedan migrant hotels need to be deported. Obviously, illegal immigrants, but legal migrants, I believe a lot of them need to be deported as well. But it's very difficult to gauge one migrant from the other, depending on the character and the behavior and their kind of cultural upbringing. So it's really tricky it's something really hard to decipher between person A and person B, and which ones we should deport and which ones we should retain in this country. So let me know what your thoughts are down below. Are you an ethno-nationalist, and do you think someone like Guardian Mo should be deported from the UK? So that's all I have to say. Guardian Mo's clocking out. Leave your comments down below. I'll see you in the next one. God bless.